As American as apple pie. You've heard that expression, right? Well, they should change that expression to as standard American as apple pie, because the average piece of apple pie has anywhere between 40 and 50 grams of carbs in it, and that's just not going to work for your low carb or keto lifestyle. But what will work is this recipe that I'm about to show you that uses a great apple substitute. It's perfect for your keto or low carb diet. So is there such a thing as a great keto apple pie that doesn't have apples in it? Well, if there wasn't before, there is now. Stick around. One of the most popular desserts in America is apple pie, and I know a lot of you have been missing it. Now, there's several recipes out there for a keto apple pie, and I've tried a lot of them, but I really love this one that I came up with. It uses 2 of my almond flour crusts, and don't worry, if you can't have almond flour, I'll tell you what else to use. It uses a great apple substitute. It's full of flavor, it's full of sweetness, it's full of spice, and everything nice. So if you want to see how to make this, let's go in the kitchen. I'll show you what you need for a keto, low carb, and gluten-free apple pie. Oh, and there's no sugar in it. Let's go. So in this keto apple pie, instead of apples, I'm going to use chayote squash. This is a little over 2 pounds of these. I found them at Walmart, Food Lion, and a couple other stores. They usually come in bags like this. If you can't find them there, check out your local Mexican grocery store. You're going to need half a cup of Splenda Magic Bakers or whatever your favorite keto sweetener is. It works better if you powder it, so if you don't have a powdered one, just throw this in the blender and then you got a powdered one. You're also going to need a 1/4 cup of this brown Magic Bakers for the brown sugar taste. It gives it a great flavor. You're going to need a teaspoon of arrowroot powder. This is what I use to thicken a lot of things. It's high in carbs if you have too much of it, but you just want to use a little bit and use it in combination with another thing I'm going to talk about in just a minute. Then you're going to need a teaspoon of the beaver-free vanilla extract. Demand the best. Just remember the old motto, if it's beaver-free, it's for me. You're also going to need a teaspoon of this maple extract. If you made my maple syrup from that Snoop Dogg video, you probably already have it. And you're going to need some apple extract. You'll need a teaspoon of that, and if you made my keto apple cider donuts last year, you probably already got some of this in your cabinet. Pull that back out. And you'll need a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. Always use fresh if you can. If you absolutely have to use that old green bottle, then I guess you got to do it, but fresh is the best. Now optionally, you'll need an egg. That's just to make the top pretty later on. You'll need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, either this Redmond's Real Salt or some pink Himalayan. You're going to need some ground ginger, a teaspoon of that, as well as the old cinnamon. And we'll use 1.5 teaspoons of that because I like it real cinnamony. Now allspice is optional, but I really like it. 1/2 teaspoon is what I put in there. I like it because I think it adds just a little something extra to that flavor profile. And then we'll use some nutmeg as well. Going to use a teaspoon of that. And this is traditional in all good apple pies. You got to have that nutmeg in there. It's just good stuff. And then of course, we're going to have some butter. We're going to use 3 tablespoons of butter. Either use this Kerrygold, which is already salted. That's why I didn't put as much salt in it. Or if you use unsalted, add a little extra salt. You're also going to need yourself 1/2 teaspoon of xanthan gum. That's going to work with that arrowroot to thicken it up. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of water. That's going to go in to make our sauce for this keto apple pie. And you're going to need 2 of my pie crusts. I'll put the link up above that shows you how to make it, and in the description. You'll put one in a pie plate and one you're going to leave flat to put on top at the end. So the first thing I got to do is just prep these chayote squash. So I just like to put them on the cutting board and use my vegetable peeler to peel them all the way down. You definitely don't want to eat the peeling. And once you're done peeling them, go ahead and cut them into slices, just like an apple. Now if it's got a little bit of that white part in the middle, that's okay, but to me, it makes it a little bit tougher, so I'm just going to cut them all off of that core, if you will. And And just go ahead and cut them up into whatever shapes and sizes that you like to go in your keto apple pie. That's really up to you, whatever you like to do in your kitchen. At this point, once they're all cut up, you got to make a decision. If you like a real crispy apple pie, like growing up we had the Granny Smith apples and they were always a little crispy, you can use my method. If you like it a little softer, then I want you to add all these into a pot of boiling water for about 45 minutes. And just keep testing it with a fork until it gets to the tenderness that you like, because once it goes in the pie, it's really not going to get much softer. So whether they're boiled and drained or whether you put them straight in here like I do for a crispy apple pie, I'm just going to put a pan over medium heat and I'm going to throw some butter in the mix. Then let that butter melt down real good. Once it is, I'm going to throw in all this chayote squash. Now I'm going to go ahead and throw in my cinnamon, my ginger, my nutmeg, my clove, and my salt. Then just give that a good stir, and we're going to cook it in this pan for about 10-15 minutes. If you want more great keto desserts, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. Click the bell next to it. Anytime I do a new keto dessert, which seems to be about once a week, then you're going to know about it. So just let them cook down real good for about 10-15 minutes. Make sure you test them with a fork, because like I said, once they go in the pie and bake, they're really not going to get any softer. So make sure you got about the consistency that you want before you put them in. Now I'm going to go in with a sweetener, and make sure you do as I say, don't do as I do, and powder that first. Then I'm going to go in with the brown magic bakers for the ultimate depth of flavor there. I mean, this is looking good already. That's going to melt down. Just keep stirring it around a little bit till that sweetener is incorporated all the way in there, and it starts looking like that. It's going to pull a little bit of water out, but not enough, so I'm going to add mine in. By the time we get done with this, it's going to be thickened up. It's going to make a nice filling for your apple pie once you add in the arrowroot powder and that xanthan gum. Just toss that right in the mix. It's already boiling up pretty good. Make sure you get it all out in there so it thickens up proper, and we'll stir it up and keep on rolling, baby. Once that's looking right and looking tight, I'm going to pull it off the heat and add in my maple extract, and I'm going to add in my apple extract. Now, don't ask me why I pull it off the heat, because I'm not cooking with gas, so I don't have to worry about the whole bottle blowing up or anything, but hey, it's just a good practice. You don't want any of it to evaporate out. Get all that flavor in there. And of course, throw that vanilla in there too for the trifecta of flavor extract goodness. Now I'm going to squeeze my lemon in there, and I know I told you a tablespoon, but hey, I don't want to be wasteful, so I just go ahead and squeeze the whole half a lemon in there. And I'll leave a link down there to the juicer that I use, as well as all the other kitchen tools that I use in my kitchen. And now, just for fancification, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of water into 1 egg, and I'm going to just whisk it up like that. I'm going to wash down the top with it and make it nice and brown once we get done. Now that I've got my pretty nails mounted, I'm just going to go ahead and take my dough ball for my second almond flour crust. The first one I've already got pressed into that 9-inch pie pan. So we'll just press this down and then roll it out, because this is going to go over the top of this pie once we fill that piece. And the link to how to make this will be down in the description, but once you get it rolled out nice and big, it's time to pour the filling into that other pie crust that I'd poked a few holes in with a fork just to make sure it cooks right. Just dump all this in right there. Look how thick and delicious that filling looks. I mean, this is going to make a proper keto apple pie. Then just get it as flat as you can get it on top before we lay that other crust on the top. And so all you got to do is pull off the top piece of that parchment paper and leave the bottom piece attached, because we're just going to flip this right over on top of that pie. Then you can just peel the top right off and you've got that whole thing covered. Then just kind of pinch it right along the edges like that, go around the outside of it, and then you can easily pull off the excess so that that top meets right there. That's what it looks like. Just get that thing nice and clean. And you can patch up any little holes if you want to, but hey, I'm gonna take a knife and cut into this little slits to let the steam escape in a little bit anyway, and we should have just left it well enough alone, but you know me, I don't do that. So now, just take a knife and just make little slits all across this thing. And then you can just take your egg wash and take your silicone brush, or if you got one of those hair ones, I guess you could use that too. But man, I don't know how you get them things clean. I think this silicone works a whole lot better. Just brush the top real nice. That's just going to add a nice golden color to it once it's done. And that oven's preheated to 350 degrees, so we're just going to go ahead and go right on in this little ride to the oven. Just put it right there in the middle rack where it's going to live its best life for about 30 minutes. Don't throw those away. You could make yourself a keto apple turnover or something. In part 2 of the do as I say, not as I do category, make sure you put a pie shield on top of it before you put it in the oven. My crust was already browning before I remembered it, and that's why I had to take this one out a little bit early. I'll put a link to how I make that, but if you use it, it'll come out perfect. This one is great. The top could have been a little bit more done. If I'd used that pie shield, it would have all been a uniform color once I got done. But I mean, even still, that looks amazing. Look at that thing. That's a proper keto apple pie. Now you got to exercise your patience. This thing needs to cool for an hour before you cut into it. But once you cut into it, look at this. That crust is flaky and delicious. And if I'd remembered to use my pie shield, it would have been perfect. It kind of fell apart just a little bit, but that's because that top crust didn't get quite as done because I didn't want to burn the other part. But I mean, look at this here. And you can serve it with some of my keto ice cream that I make. And I'll put a link to that up there also for you. Because the only thing that makes it more standard American than apple pie is a great scoop of a beautiful ice cream. Enjoy. If you're making this for a party and there's going to be a lot of non-keto people there, make this recipe or this recipe and take it, and they'll never know the difference.